Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. This week we decided we'd think about something. Well, it's happening at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of current, sort of bordering on future, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of sort of happening, but will happen possibly.
Yeah,
probably.
I think it eventually will be the future, and I mean, of course, we're talking about autonomous vehicles.
Yeah, the vehicles that drive themselves, essentially.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what that means, that's basically it. It basically means it's almost like getting into a cab without a driver, I suppose, wouldn't it? You jump in, program where you'd like to go, like you would into a sat nav, I guess, and it would just take you there and do it all automatically. And it's...
so the vehicles you've seen in futuristic movies where they get in and basically, like you said, just sit down and the car drives itself kind of thing. This is what we are getting towards.
Yeah, like the Johnny cabs in Total Recall.
Yeah. Like
hopefully less annoying.
Yeah. So obviously we've got companies like Tesla and Google and Uber and other companies which are slowly starting to implement theirs. I mean, obviously Tesla have been doing it for a while and Google have been doing it for quite a few years now.
And they are heavily investing in it, a lot of them as well, aren't they? And it's because I mean,
well, not just in the vehicles, but possibly roadways that make it easier for autonomous cars to exist.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, because I think a lot of it, I mean, it's going to be very dependent. I mean, we couldn't have the roads we got now with half the lines missing and things like that. Otherwise,
potholes and everything.
Yeah, you might have an autonomous vehicle flying off into a field because the line's been half missing.
Yes.
But I mean, it's one of those things that, I mean, another thing we're going to talk about is not just the implementation of them and everything like that. If that is a word, implementation.
Yep.
But it's
it is now.
Yeah, it is now. But yeah, we're going to just talk about, will it make the future better or not, like, from our point of view. And I mean, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this as well, so don't forget to hit us up in the comments below or on our social media and everything. Just search Wolf Workshop, you'll find us. But it's yeah, because I mean, originally I always thought that was a stupid idea. I didn't like the idea at all. I mean, my dinosaur brain's thinking I love driving my car, I love cars, things like that, and that was my initial stance on it. However, I have to admit, I have slowly been changing my mind, and I think there is a lot of merit that could be had if they can get a reliable system. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust one nowadays to take my kids to school, you know, that sort of thing.
No, I mean, obviously people have seen videos online of all the troubles they've been having with autonomous cars crashing into things and,
I mean,
you know, going haywire and everything like that. So, you know, obviously it's in its infancy.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in theory, a good working, reliable car that you know you could trust as much as you can trust a road-going car you've got now, sort of thing. Because again, that's what it needs to come to, and it's similar like what my thoughts are with hybrids and electric cars. Until it becomes as reliable and as convenient as the cars we got on the roads now, I think they'll be obsolete. And then eventually, when they do get to that stage, they'll make the older stuff obsolete. Yeah, and it'll be the same with. I think it'll be the same with these autonomous cars. Is until they become a reliable thing that actually works really well, I think they will be obsolete. I think once they do get to a stage where they're reliable, they'll take off like nothing else. Yeah. But
I mean, obviously, there's always going to be outcry against it because it's one of those things. It's going to take jobs. Yeah. Because your taxi driver,
truck drivers,
bus drivers, all those kind of jobs are going to go because, I mean, those vehicles will still be made, but being autonomous, they're just going to take themselves where they need to go.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing is, as well, is if they've got a computer driving a truck, it's not going to get tired, so they'll probably be able to do away with the tachos and things like that as well, so there won't be time constraints and things. But
also employers are going to look at it and go, well, an autonomous vehicle doesn't need to be paid. Yeah, it doesn't get sick, it doesn't take holidays, and it'll run 24/7. You know, there'll be no like you say, no tacho breaks or anything like that.
However, I imagine if somebody decided to hack one and send it to Cuba, then I imagine that could cost them
there's always going to be that side of it. But
that is the only downside I can see. Is obviously autonomous vehicles. Obviously, they like people hacking bank accounts and that. What's not to say, rather than going out and stealing a car like they do off the side of a road, like smashing a window, jumping in, hot wiring it, they could just hook a laptop up to it and then go, right, drive to my house. That is the only thing I suppose could be done. But again, there's swings and roundabouts with everything, isn't there? But I mean,
there are positives to take from it as well.
I think so. Cause I mean, I was thinking about the like people like the elderly. Because like we've said before, haven't we? I mean, how many times? I mean, not being ageist, But there is a certain point where, when you get elderly, to a certain point, you might start losing some of your faculties, a bit like your sight becomes worse, your hearing becomes worse, things
reflexes, things like that.
Yeah, that's it. So, I mean, how many times do you get stuck behind an elderly driver that's doing 20 because they're a bit scared to go above that? And how many, and again, it's not because they're not confident with the car, it's because they're not confident themselves, and everything seems moving past quicker. And how many times do you hear them driving away, and because the hearing's going, possibly, they're revving the hell out the engine before they pull the clutch up, so you know it's putting massive strain on those cars. And I mean, from somebody who's been like in the motor trade for years, I mean, I've seen it before. People I've seen it with some elderly people where they've had a clutch replaced 600 miles ago and they've already burnt through the new one. So I mean, I think for people like that, it means that they still get to have their independence, and that's that security if they've got an autonomous vehicle that they can use, but without the worry and the stress of them having to drive themselves. They could jump in almost like a taxi, but without it costing taxi fare prices. Then.
And also people with disabilities as well. You may have somebody who is, say for example, somebody who's blind, who in this day and age would never be able to drive a car that they have to drive themselves, but an autonomous car
means that they could come and go as they please. Like we can, if we want to go, like if I want to drive out, or like tonight where you've driven up to visit me, you're on your own timescale, you can leave when you want and things like that, which is one of the beauties about car ownership, isn't it? Is you're not on a bus schedule, train schedule, or worrying about how long a taxi's going to be. You're on your own time, which is fantastic.
But people who are unable to drive cars now would be able to go into an autonomous vehicle and go wherever they want without the worry of, maybe you haven't got arms or a leg or something like that, and you go, no, well, I can't drive this car without it being modified. You just sit in your car and off it takes you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that side of it is very good. And I mean, the other thing is, like, there's certain people, I suppose, like students that might not be able to afford to learn to drive. Or
people that just don't want to.
Yeah, that's it. It gives them a lot more freedom. But like I said, again, because I've heard whispers around places as well that there'll even be like a lot of people pushing it, like Google and Uber and people like that, so that there'll be a lot of people out there that won't even have their own car. It'll just be a case of you go on your phone with your app, go deet, 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 and one of the local ones will come to you. You jump in it, tell it where you want to go, they'll take you to there, and that's it. Almost like I say, almost like a taxi service, but a modern one. Which, I mean, again, it makes life a lot more convenient if that works in theory. However, for me, the negatives that come with that is, like, I think there's something to be said to go through your license to when you actually get past. I mean, I failed my test a couple of times.
I did as well.
Yeah, I shouldn't admit it. I failed my test twice. I passed my third time, and I have to, like, the second time I failed, I was absolutely devastated. I even gave up driving lessons for 6 months because I thought, why am I spending my money on this? And I did have I did kind of throw my toys out the pram a little bit.
Yeah,
but that feeling when you pass and you jump into your car, and the first time when you're driving it and you're in control of that car and there's nobody sat next to you telling you what to do, the unbelievable feeling of freedom you get from that. And there'll be an entire generation of people that might be possibly robbed of that. And I mean, I think that's one of the negatives. And having your own car and being controlled, just the feeling of being bonded with your machine. I mean, I'm guessing that a lot of you guys know exactly what we're talking about, otherwise you wouldn't be interested in a car podcast. But it's I think that would be the massive sort of loss, I think, for a lot of people from my point of view. And also these people, I think it will create a generation of people that don't want to drive because they don't need to. Which again, I think that will be robbing them of certain things. I mean, I know a lot of people that didn't like driving to start with, but they got good memories of road trips with good mates. You fill your car up with your mates, you go on a road trip, and there's that thing. I mean, I know some people might be thinking, well, you could do that with an autonomous vehicle.
Oh, definitely,
I mean, for the people that are all about drinking, etc., then they can do that whilst they're doing it. But I don't know, again, you taking your mates out on a road trip and some of the memories you make in that, like when I think back on some of the things that we've done, like when we used to cruise around together and like go and sit inside, we just go meet up in the car, sit for hours, or when we went camping down Porlock and we do that road trip together and that, and just the funny things that happen and the memories you make and that, and just us being in charge of our own vehicles, that was a big part of the trip for us as petrol heads. It was fantastic, wasn't it? It was just brilliant. And that feeling will be robbed from a lot of people, I think, by these new cars.
Well, also the connection between you and the vehicle will be lost as well, because it may be your vehicle that's autonomous, but you won't be driving it. Or it may not be your vehicle at all. It may just be like a vehicle you get into to go somewhere.
Yeah, almost like a train or a bus or anything that doesn't really mean anything to you. Whereas, I mean, that would be one good thing. I mean, I guess I can't see them ever being able to take away like I think if they were to ban cars that you can control, that you can drive like what we've got now, I think there'd be massive massive uproar right now. I mean, it might change. It might change in the future, but I can't see it. Like horses are still allowed on our roads today, and I mean, if anything, I would have said that an animal that could be spooked by something that's quite slow, considering our traffic flow, they could quite easily turn around and say, "Well, that's dangerous." But they don't, and it's good because the equestrian people, the people that enjoy it as a hobby, can still go out on the horses, and I think that's a really good thing. And I think that is what eventually will happen to the car culture. Is there'll be people like me and you who enjoy driving our cars, who want to go on road trips. And we'll be able to, but it'll be like a lot of people have motorbikes as a hobby that they use on the weekends, and I think the cars we drive ourselves will be like that for us. Me and you jump in our cars and nip up over Brecon or Snowdon or something like that. But
well, the other positive is it may take dangerous drivers off the road. People who, there may be people who have driving offences and bits and pieces like that. Instead of being told to stop driving altogether, maybe just be told, right, you can only go in autonomous vehicles now.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's another thing. It means that they wouldn't lose their independence as well. And
but the roads would be safer for normal drivers.
And it also might save jobs as well. In some ways, it sounds silly, but there is a lot of people like myself. If I was to lose my licence, I would lose my livelihood, because if I can't walk as a mechanic that can't drive a car legally.
Of course, yeah.
But the thing is a lot of, but not just, I mean, don't get me wrong, if I lost my licence, an autonomous vehicle wouldn't help that really.
No, but if you still needed to get to work.
That's what I was going to say, if you need to get to work, all the people that work in factories, things like that, you lose your licence. If you've got these autonomous vehicles, especially if they're not too expensive, like a taxi, then it'd be great. I mean, I went out to a chap tonight, his car broke down. And he was saying he's going to have to take a couple of days off work. I mean, luckily he didn't mind too much. It meant he had a couple more days off work, sort of thing. But he, lovely bloke. But he turned around and he said, if I get a taxi to work, it's going to cost me 40 quid each way.
Yeah.
I mean, you do that one day's work. I mean, there's no point. You'd be earning less than minimum wage to do that. And it's so yeah, like I say, I know people that have gone to court for various offences, and I've heard of people having it where they've gone to court and they've managed to keep their licence, because if they lose their licence, they can't get to work, which means they can't pay child support. They can't contribute to society with taxes and things like that, which they don't want. So they let you keep your licence a lot of the time. But
also, like you just mentioned, if your car does happen to break down, rather than it being the end of the world because you can't get out and about and do stuff, the autonomous cars would still allow you to get around, even if it's just, I need to get to work, I need to get to the shops.
Yeah.
And also, it would help you save, if you were still a person who owned an analog car as such, it would help you save money.
Current car sort of thing.
Yeah, and it would help you save money towards keeping that one on the road if you were able to use a cheaper service rather than keep trying to use that.
And I mean, another thing I think which would be a positive from my point of view as well is it would, whilst we both love driving, and don't get me wrong, I love road trips and things like that, I love the things you see, like I said, I love like thinking about the amount of miles I've done, like driving to Edinburgh and things like that. I know you have as well. I love all of that, but there is an element, I mean, we're both from Devon, both live away from Devon, but there's the boring commutes, like the trip down there. If you had an autonomous vehicle, that's the thing. It could, like, if for petrol head, if we could keep the cars we like driving, we could take them and use them for recreation and drive them places where we want to. Like I could take my truck off roading on green lanes still, or we could go for a trip, let's say up Snowdon, go and do the Evo loop or whatever.
Well, the thing is you and me have driven to and from Devon so many times now that the ability to just getting a car and even possibly sleep for the 2 and a bit hours that it takes to get down there would be far better than doing a journey we've done a million times.
That's it, because we've done that journey, and I think it would be good for long distance commuters or people that tend to work all up and down the country. It would take the boring bit of driving out. You could, if you are on your way to work, you could possibly catch up on things on email and things like that on your phone, because everything's going. Because I mean, well, these are like things have got more power in them than the desktop computers have when we were kids. So the thing is, there's quite a lot you could do on your way to and from wherever you're going quite easily in them, or you could, like you said, you could have a sleep, you could eat some food safely, you could do whatever you want. I mean, hell, if you're on your way home from work, you could crack open your first beer with that. Drive in if you really wanted to, if that's your prerogative. But it's I mean, there's a lot of things like that which I think would be quite good. Like I say, you could, like you were saying, sleep on the way to Devon would be fantastic. Or even as a family, if you could, depending on the seating arrangement, you could sit there and play a board game on the way down and things like that. Keep the kids. You could. interact more with the kids like you would in a house to keep it more one-to-one. It means you've got...
Well, or maybe if the kids are watching a film on the way somewhere, you could all watch a film.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's a lot more things. I think there's a lot of... From what I can see now, I think there's more pros than there is cons, provided they don't take the cars that we're allowed to, that we've got now away from us, sort of thing, like the ones you can drive.
And as long as they perfect the autonomous car, so there are no issues, or very few issues, because nothing's ever perfect. But if you knew that 99 times out of 100, you're going to have absolutely no issues in a journey, whether it be 2 minutes or 2 hours.
Yeah, because I mean, don't get me wrong, there are things like... Did you hear about recently where Tesla had there was something happened? I don't know if it was a server or something crashed somewhere or something that, or server somewhere, not server, server or something crashed somewhere, and it meant loads of Tesla owners couldn't actually get access to their cars for like a couple of hours.
Oh, no way!
So like thousands of people were late to work because the cars were all rigged up by computers and they couldn't use them. So I mean, there will be, like I said, we are aware of them. We're talking ideally in a perfect world and things like that. Because I mean, the other thing was what Clarkson said about them a while back, like Jeremy Clarkson, if you follow him, when he said that it takes all of the human element out of it, which can be a scary thing. Because if that computer is held up with a choice, like if you're gonna come off a road, say by accident, something's going to happen in that autonomous vehicle, something goes wrong, you're going to come off the road and hit someone on the pavement, or you're going to go over a cliff and you're going to die. What is it going to choose? If it's got to choose between one life or another, there's things like that which would be incredibly sort of sketchy and scary. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the perfect ideal world. There's a lot of positives, but there is a lot of things that would need to be answered before I think I would trust them.
Yes,
definitely. Same with the AI and things like that. Is a lot of things to be answered before it becomes more of a definite, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it becoming the future, but I don't think it's ready yet.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a choice of either or, if it's a choice of me being able to drive a car and control a car myself or an autonomous vehicle, they can scrap the autonomous vehicle straight away. I don't care. I want to be able to control my car. I'd rather drive a Morris 1000 from here to Devon with me controlling it than jumping in a little tic tac and being driven down there by a computer if I had to choose either or. But
if you could have both,
if they can amalgamate the two, I think it'd be a good thing personally.
Yeah, me too. Well, guys, let us know what you think. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? What do you think of the pros and cons? You may have thought of issues or positives that we haven't thought of.
And I just hope we haven't bored you to tears, because I have prattled on quite a bit about this one. So.
But we like to try and keep up to date as much as we can, as much as we do videos where we go into the past and nostalgia and things like that. You know, there are obviously a lot of car issues that are coming up or
on the horizon. We like to. We're basically, we're talking everything cars. So, I mean, if you liked what you've seen, then obviously check out all of our other videos. If you check out our podcast playlist, which is just called Car Talk, there are many more episodes which might interest you. There'll always be the subject title in the description. So, yeah, check us out.
And also, slowly but surely, all of our videos are becoming podcasts on Spotify as well.
Yes.
So if you're maybe not able to watch us, maybe you'd rather listen to us on your commute or time off, then you can do that. If you're sick and tired of these faces, you can just listen to us instead.
And if you're sick and tired of our voices, then
you're probably not watching anyway.
No. But thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
Cheers.